Cam, you're ready.
Okay, there we go. You can hear me.
Yep.
Okay, look, I think we're rolling. Awesome. Hey, well, good morning, everybody. I'm excited to talk about this. This is a topic that I feel like every destination organization needs to be at least aware of, especially in kind of a post-pandemic landscape that we're operating in currently. Thanks, Adam. So really, thanks for joining. This is an important topic. By way of introductions, my name is Jared Price. I'm the Director of Business Development at Relic. We are an agency that specializes in destination marketing. So one of my favorite things about my job is I'm able to talk with a lot of marketers, destination marketers from coast to coast. And this is a topic that's increasingly become more and more prevalent in those discussions. And it's kind of a sea change really with the way that destination organizations are thinking about their relationship with the community and the ways that they are reaching, conducting their outreach and all of the other activities they hear. So before diving into it, I just want to give a little background. This whole initiative, it's been spearheaded by Destinations International. They introduced the topic in 2019 at their their annual convention. And since then, they produced a lot of excellent resources and literature that helps destination organizations with their marketing, like with this in mind. So starting off with a definition here, we're going to hear community shared value a lot. I'm going to say it a lot here. So what is a community shared value? But Destinations International, they define it as a value that's appreciated at an individual level and shared by every member of the community. And these are kind of the non-negotiable core principles and standards that residents want to maintain and defend. And really, they boil down to community's vision and goals, mission, ideas for the future, and then really when it comes to when the rubber hits the road, it's like, oh, how's that reflected here in budgets and the services we provide, other things like that. And so I'll make sure this deck's available, but I've got a link here for the keynote that Jack Johnson gave, kind of setting the stage for this whole approach. To further paint the picture here, some of the sample community shared values here I wanted to call out. There's always going to be some disagreement over how things like this are provided, but some of the standard ones include quality education, access to healthcare, first responders, emergency service, all utilities, infrastructure, and then also economic development opportunities. And so depending on how you approach those can be different, but typically those are some of the common CSVs. And just to kind of illustrate where I want to take this presentation here, kind of where we're headed here, making the argument that destination organizations, we need to connect, engage, inspire local politicians and residents really to view what we're doing as a common good, establishing that as a community shared value. All right, someone cue the ominous music. There's a problem here, excuse me. By and large, destination organizations aren't viewed as a common good. There's kind of a strained relationship, even in some cases, between a community and the DMOs and CVBs. And what here, destination organizations, they're easy targets here for political attacks. Somebody comes in looking to cut expenditures, kind of realign tax revenue. Those other, the kind of the sample CSVs that we were mentioning earlier, those are kind of the untouchables really, but there's that one line item on the budget and it's like, okay, well, destination marketing, that's something that, because it isn't that community shared value, budgets are kind of, in limbo at times, other resources, it can be dicey, especially with turnover in local politicians, some community sentiment has gone awry, things like that, where it's some DMOs and CVBs are kind of on tenuous footing. So Destinations International, as part of this, they went through a lot of audits, budget reports, and news reports really face establish why DMOs are usually the first on the chopping block. And so, funding is at risk, and even the models being questioned. And they've grouped those into three key categories. So, fiduciary failures, lack of community relevance, and then just the standard responses that we have been using really no longer resonate in kind of the political and civic atmosphere. And so these are some little snippets of things that they found in some of those reports as far as the fiduciary failures go. Say that 10 times fast. But so, does not ensure that public funds are being used effectively and efficiently. The city spends millions of dollars a year on tourism efforts, but we have no idea if that money is well spent. And then, using vague metrics that really people perhaps don't understand. They don't understand where the money's going, how it's being spent, and what the return is. Lack of community relevance. And, this is it's interesting because it does seem in many regards there's a genuine disconnect between destination organizations and their respective communities. And a lot of that is really tied to lack of understanding about what they do, why they do it. Something that Jack Johnson mentioned in his keynote. He's like, well, we always used to joke that not even our families really know what we do at work every day. But really, I think that points to kind of a larger issue where the value isn't acknowledged or understood. Minimal engagement with the community. We're spending so many resources trying to get visitors. A lot of times residents haven't even seen the branding. They haven't been there, for the messaging to be developed. And, because we're not running ads to get communities to visit their community, they don't see those outreach efforts. So there's not a lot of back and forth between, the destination organization and the community. And what this results in is just kind of that lack of familiarity that really gives others the power to control the narrative about, what the destination organization is doing. And so that can be almost used as a lever against us here, where because there isn't that understanding, we can fill in, the narrative is filled in for us. And then the typical response is, yeah, just as I mentioned, like the political and civic reality that this world that we're living in, there's just kind of a general distrust in traditional organizations. And so, the status quo here is no longer an option. And so performance measurements are often not understood. And then this distrust and kind of a fear of change or fear of the unknown, it's really resulting in emotion-based decisions, and where standard logical arguments that we make for, to justify the existence of the destination organization, those logical responses just seem to fall a little bit more flat. And also, kind of counterintuitive, but really a more interconnected world. It's increased differences in opinions over ideas and identities. And so, again, at large, that narrative needs to pivot. We need to help people understand kind of the why, and then also reestablish that authority. So in a nutshell, we boil it down here that DMOs have made the wrong audience their priority. They focused here on the visitors as opposed to the residents. So how to fix that? DI, they've put together 4 questions to ask. So first one, what does the community need? What is the solution? What expertise does the DMO bring to the table? And then, who are the destination organizations actually helping, and who is the end customer? So the community need here, every community is competing with every other community really for that visibility, attention, and respect, which in turn garners tourists and consumers, talent, and then, leading, of course, to businesses, available capital, and investments. And it's I thought this is an interesting concept because really in kind of the digital world, there is so much of that competition here, where if you're not competing, then you're lost in the noise. Communities that are not competing are really left behind. So for a community to compete, in addition to like infrastructure, that's not enough. Two major things: awareness of the destination, and then a clear and positive perception of the brand. Um, People need to hear about the destination. They need to be able to find it when they're searching. And really, with these things in place, it creates that desire for people to visit, to come to experience the destination for themselves, meet the people, and then hopefully uh, spread the good news then about the destination. The third question: what expertise does the DMO bring? The good news is we already have the tools here. We've got, these are all going to sound familiar because it's something that we do day in and day out. Strategies to achieve awareness and those positive impressions, brand development and protection, tools, knowledge, and relationships in that community. And then, this is something that really a third party vision, as well as someone who lives and works in the destination, but a love of the community and that desire to kind of see these initiatives through. And then who is the customer? I feel like this is the crux of it, really. It's who is really benefiting here, and why do we use the metrics that we do? Like, jobs created, local spending generated, how much economic stimulation here is occurring because of tourism. And I think in the past we've tended to focus on meeting planners, event planners, concert promoters, association executives as the customer, where really what we're doing here, and this needs to be articulated to the community, is that all of these initiatives, everything that we're working toward, ultimately is designed to be for the benefit and well-being of everybody in the community. So, just a small pivot in how that is thought about. The takeaway here is that DMOs and CVBs, they have a bigger mission than just putting heads in beds, which is a good metric. It's valuable, but also that's not the primary objective here that we're all working for. So in our internal discussions, we kind of call this approach, the radical new DMO, where really focusing on the resident to better reach the visitor. Okay, so this is all fun and good to talk about in an abstract theoretical way, but here's kind of what we've devised to make this happen here. So becoming a community shared value. We've broken 4 key responsibilities of a DMO or CVB that they need to meet here in order to establish themselves as that non-negotiable principle. So first one, business stakeholder support, resident education and engagement, brand awareness, and then a focus on in-destination programming. Business stakeholder support. So obviously, providing measurable support to the stakeholders and then just looping them in on the conversation, communicating the value of the DMO, what the DMO does for them, and kind of, where they fall within that larger community landscape, and then how it relates to the destination organization. And so this follows into, 3 destination marketing funnels that we'll talk about a little bit later, but making sure that these stakeholders know right where they fall in terms of the larger ecosystem. Working to eliminate cannibalizing market channels with stakeholders. So, making sure that everyone's on the same page, we're not stealing leads from another. It's a concerted effort there to just make sure that we're all working together. Removing those barriers to purchase, content creation, things like that, just to really facilitate smooth transactions, even getting as granular as that with these individual businesses here. And then visitor distribution, letting people know what's available, spreading the word about what businesses are there, fun places to visit, just to further spur that drawing a blank on the word here. Income, that's the word. But just getting people pointed in the right direction for that economic stimulation to take place. Resident education and engagement. So again, like with the business stakeholder support, educating the resident tourism, what it does for them, and I think people would be shocked if they knew how much of their taxes were subsidized by, um, tourism income and revenue, things like that. We're working with the public to just again let them know what what things would look like without tourism, without that concerted effort, but also how that's actually shaping the community around them, and also making residents aware of things in their destination too. Yeah, it's promotion, of course, to get visitors, but also promotion internally. And this is something that I think, you know, COVID really changed when, travel was locked down. DMOs were like, okay, well, what do we do now? And a lot of them turned inward, you know, marketing to their own residents here, educating them about those experiences available. Um, Tourism works. I think a lot of times I think of a couple communities here in Utah that tourism is kind of viewed as the scourge. There's all these people from out of state coming in, they're clogging up our roads and stepping on the flowers, yada yada, things like that. But um, they only see the negative, and so we feel it's the duty of the destination organization to again just communicate that value there, and also public relations efforts for both internal and external, just keeping residents engaged and they're familiar with what's going on, up to speed. And then brand awareness. So this ties back to the competition argument where every community is competing with one another. Brand awareness is huge, and brands need to be not only but also manicured essentially and defended, making sure that the perception of the brand is positive, and that there's not an immediate knee-jerk reaction if you hear of some destination or something, but that perception in the mind of the potential visitor is as positive as can be. So clearly communicating that brand to both residents and visitors, through storytelling, advertising, and establishing that unified visual identity and messaging that really speaks to the unique features of the destination that not only visitors are aware of, but that the community understands as well. These are the things here that we do well. These are the things that we have available. I think about a story that a coworker often tells in Knoxville. They went to go to eat somewhere, and after the dinner, he asked, "Okay, well, where's the best place to get dessert? And, is it here?" And the waiter, he said, "Well, actually, you can get dessert here, of course, but there's a little creamery around the corner here that's going to be miles above anything that we've got here." And so that was a really interesting example of that awareness of the brand and where they fall in there, and also kind of that the messaging. And so just kind of an interesting anecdote, at least I think so. But clearly understanding personas and making sure the brand is on target with those. So but also not just visitor personas, but also resident personas. What are the archetypes of the people who live in these communities? What are we going to do to reach them? What are the best tactics to to get material in front of them to educate and engage them? And then also understanding and managing all the brand touch points. And so, of course, I'm preaching to the choir here, but branding is so much more than just the visuals. It's so much more than the logo. But really now in the information age, brand is really kind of the sum of all those disparate parts. Anytime somebody interacts with the brand, either leaves a positive or a negative impression. And there's a lot that is simply out of our control. It's different than it was when you could run TV spots, and that was really the impression that people got of your brand and that perception. But there's so many different touch points and points of engagement and interaction with the brand that it's important to be aware of those, understand them, and then manage them to the best extent of your capabilities. In destination programming. And so this kind of ties back into educating residents about the experiences that are available in their community. But also, when the visitors come into play, they're being distributed correctly. A lot of perceived overcrowding problems or things could often be um, solved with some you know strategic visitor distribution, spreading people out over the area, letting people know that, hey, there's more than one thing to do in this place, and distributing them out to those different areas. Things like passes, those kinds of incentives. Also facilitating events, taking part in destination improvement initiatives, making sure your destination has a good app. That's just kind of a fundamental one. Um, because really, if you better the quality of life for the residents, that's going to come across in so many different ways to any visitors. I mentioned marketing funnels here, and because of talking funnels, there's been a misconception or kind of an outdated mode of viewing, marketing funnel here, where instead of just tossing everyone into one big funnel here, awareness, consideration, purchase, we approach building these for destinations with 3 funnels. And so we've got pre-booking, post-booking, and then a retention funnel. So pre-booking, this is, overall, this goal here is to attract and book visitors. And so, a lot of destination awareness happens here, engaging with potential visitors, and then, the direct response tactics to get people to book their trip. Post-booking, so after they book the trip, after they've arrived, this is another chance, another opportunity to further, segment them here and target them, and again, funnel them to the right place. So just influencing those visitors to interact with those stakeholders that we've been talking about. So reinforcing the brand while they're here through awareness tactics, market to confirm travelers, pre-visit and in destination. Develop those in-destination resources to connect visitors with locals, visitor distribution, of course, and then programming and those supporting marketing materials for them when they're actually here, after they booked and in the destination. Once they go home, there's a retention funnel, just to really encourage return visitation. So, you've got their data here. How can we utilize that to entice those people to come back? Marketing with tradition sculpting, messaging that supports that, where I think most of us have memories of a place and a tradition associated with that, family vacations, things like that, but making that part of that retention narrative, those unique things that keep drawing people back. Assisting stakeholders to create those incentive programs, and then leveraging owned media channels to trigger repeat visits. And owned media is something I want to talk about a little bit more as we keep going here, but building your own audience, there's a number of different ways to do that, but that's such a good way to encourage retention, keep the brand at the top of the mind, keep the destination on their radar, in ways that you don't have to, rent other platforms or, utilize different channels, but you've got your own built-in audience. Okay, I wanted to talk about a couple brands that I think are doing a good job at Visit Baltimore. So I was in Baltimore a couple weeks ago, and they've got a fantastic brand. Bellwether Agency, they did this for them, but this one is interesting. I want to read a quote here from Al Hutchinson, their president and CEO. We set out to rebrand in order to showcase our city in a new light. We're on a mission to help first-time visitors fall in love with our city, and for local residents to feel a sense of pride in the place they call home. Which, we saw this quote, it's like, okay, that's exactly what we're talking about here. Focusing on the residents, but also the visitor experience, and it really makes it feel like home. I thought this is cool. This is included in a lot of their marketing, but highlighting those stakeholders, highlighting the residents, calling out those unique things that are draws to a destination. But also, this is cool because it's not just for the visitor, but also, this is something that could be easily distributed to residents as well. Things like this, promoting those individual members of the community, again, just to increase the level of cohesion there. And also when people visit, it's like, oh, okay, well, this is what I can expect, and people I can meet. Another thing that was pretty cool, they hired a lot of local copywriters to write some of their copy here, and then distributed that around the destination here. So like this is a poem from a resident, you know, printed here on, local press. Again, things like that. These are all the ingredients that we've been talking about of, as far as engaging residents, educating them, including them in those decisions. So they recognize and understand the value that the destination organizations bring to the community. Myrtle Beach. So, excuse me. We've been working with Myrtle Beach for a little bit, and they've got a very interesting approach. Where essentially they're building a big media empire, or a lot of just fun content that isn't necessarily working solely to drive visitation, but also tell the community story, get the locals involved, and then with this big wealth of content that they're creating, they have that owned audience. They can use this material for both visitors and community to just further engage with the destination. And so anyway, Myrtle Beach Beats, this is one of their channels we're helping put together. They've got it's a YouTube series, Myrtle Beach Karaoke. And then Myrtle Beach Eats is another kind of an umbrella brand here. And then these are two other YouTube series, Finding Our Flavor and On the Hook. And so they're just doing some really interesting pre-booking funnel that really is it's content that resonates with the residents as well. It's not just, oh, hey, visit Myrtle Beach here, but this is content that's fun, it's engaging, and it really just helps foster that sense of community first and foremost. All right, well, that went a lot quicker than when I practiced it in the mirror, but hey, here we go. No, we're a little early. Are we okay to open it up to any questions?
Great stuff, JP.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, any questions?
How can people get in touch with you?
You know what? I'll distribute this deck, and I've got contact information in there.
Awesome. We had a lot of engagement. A lot of people were on. I'm sure a lot of people are going to watch on demand when it's over as well. Laura has a question for you. What are your thoughts on ambassador programs?
Way. Yes, ambassador programs. I think something that comes to mind when I initially think of that is visit Casper, Wyoming. They do a fantastic job building out that ambassador program, and they've got a lot of engagement with the community. And I think that's, going back to the someone turning away business really to send someone to another establishment. Is that those ambassador programs do such a good job at creating, where it's not kind of an every man for himself approach, but sense. And again, I feel like with the ambassador program, there's so many times where you visit somewhere and you ask somebody there, okay, well, what's fun to do here, and they're like, oh, well, I don't know. That's kind of the worst response that anyone could give really when they're interacting with a visitor, but it happens a lot, and I think ambassador programs do a lot to kind of curtail that. They help people understand what to talk about with the destination, kind of things to convey, and so they don't come up with well, I don't know, you can go to the next town over and do XYZ. And so yeah, Laura, I think the ambassador programs are fantastic.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Well, great. Well, again, we'll have this all this great information available to everyone, streaming on demand shortly after this session is over. We have a break coming up for networking or lunch opportunities. After that, we're bringing back to the stage Kristen Cruz and her panel for meeting planners, the whole gamut of what's going on there and what the trends are. And then we've got Laurie Rowe on stage about travel media. So we're excited about that. And then after all of that, we'll be in happy hour at the workshop. So we'd love to see you guys there. And thanks again, JP. This was such an amazing session.
Well, thank you for having me. And yeah, I've got some sources here and additional reading too that will be part of the file, of course. And but really, yeah, thanks for your time. Appreciate it.